public can observe if they would like. And then last thing I need to do is read through our hearing script. Basically just covers the procedure of the hearing, and then we'll jump right into the presentation. This is the October 6th, 2021 session of the zoning hearing examiner docket. My name is Davis Turkey. I'm the zoning hearing examiner for the city of Cincinnati, and I'll preside over this hearing. The case before us today is case number ZH20210137. The purpose of this hearing is to allow applicants and opposing parties to testify and to offer and refute evidence and testimony. This hearing will follow the rules found in the zoning code and the supplemental rules of the zoning hearing examiner. All testimony and evidence that the applicant or any opposing party would like to present must be presented at this hearing, unless a party has opted to submit evidence or testimony in the form of writing prior to this hearing. The hearing will proceed as follows. The applicant, the applicant's attorney, or the applicant's agent will first present the applicant's case. If we did have anyone here from the public, the public would have an opportunity to speak after the applicant had presented its case. I'll give our zoning plans examiner, Trey Sheldon, an opportunity to add some commentary as well to his staff report. And then if in the event any party testifies or offers argument in opposition to an application, the applicant shall have the opportunity to rebut that testimony and or argument offered in opposition. And then finally, the applicant will have an opportunity to make any closing statements. So after all presentations have been made, I will close the hearing. Decisions may be expected within 2 weeks. I may limit or exclude any testimony that I deem irrelevant or outside the scope of the application being considered. I may interrupt any speaker to ask questions or to make comments, and I may also refuse to consider hearsay testimony. In the event of any technical difficulties or unforeseen circumstances with our video conferencing technology, we'll do our best to troubleshoot that on the fly. But to the extent there's some defect that prevents us from meaningfully going forward with the hearing, I may continue or postpone the hearing at my discretion. Okay, I think that's it. All I need to do is just swear in all of our witnesses. So if you intend on providing any testimony here today, making any comments, asking any questions, doing anything other than just strictly observing, and you are not an attorney, then you need to be sworn in. So if you could make sure you're off mute and raise your right hand. I need everyone to answer out loud. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Great. And Trey, of course, I know you're an attorney, but in your zoning plans examiner capacity.
Yeah, I know. I always do. I raise my hand.
Thank you for being sworn. Okay.
I've done this a couple of times.
Yeah. Okay, Mr. Good, I'm going to turn the floor over to you to tell me about this application and why you believe it's appropriate.
Yes, thank you, sir. We're asking for a variance to reconstruct a carriage house garage. My client's family has owned this property on Park Avenue in Walnut Hills for quite a long time. It's very sentimental to the family, and they really like the historic character of it. And in recent years, the carriage house has fallen into disrepair and it needs to be remodeled, and they're going to remodel it in very much the same way. They've even did the demolition by hand and preserved the roofing tiles so that they can put the correct roofing tiles back. They're going to build it with the exact same footprint that it was, and the footprint is larger than permitted in this zoning district. And so that's why we are requesting a variance to allow basically them to reconstruct the exact same carriage house in the carriage house in the exact same place with the exact same footprint in a historical manner. Maybe the siding might be slightly different, of course, but the roofing will be the same. It'll be the same footprint. And my client can tell you more about the details with the construction. And so my client went to the community council and got their support. And there's a letter from the community council in our packet showing that they support the project. The only thing I'd mention that I don't know if there's any setback issue too. We would just ask for the variance to cover the footprint, and maybe if there's a setback issue, because I do think it's up against the edge of the property. But again, we're just trying to rebuild the same footprint to restore this carriage house that was in disrepair. It'll be very nice and have a historically correct look to it. So.
Okay, great. Mr. Stowe, anything you'd like to add?
Josh pretty well covered it. The issue with the original carriage house was it didn't have any footers on the foundation. It was just a structural slab poured directly on grade there. So over the years, a section of the slab started to basically collapse, and it caused real structural problems. when it really started to come to our attention, it was a very rapid shift in the foundation, and we felt that we needed, in order for it to be safe for tenants of the property, that we needed to tear it down. Once we tore it down, we realized we had made a crucial mistake in that we couldn't apply to fix it without going through the zoning variance process. So as Josh mentioned, we saved all the original slate tiles. We also saved as much brick as we could that wasn't chipped during demolition to restore the facade section. And we plan on fully matching the brick for the rest, the sides and the rear of the carriage house to match the original brick as close as possible. A few things I'll say about the design, as Josh mentioned, it's going to go back in the exact same footprint, and we're hoping to put it back in the same location. He mentioned that it was more or less a zero lot line at the back of the property. So we would ask, as you review our application, that in a ruling or whatever the process is, that you ask that it, or allow it to be put back in its same location. The design is not necessarily what I would say productive for today's world. It was designed as a carriage house, and like I said, we're going to the lengths to put it back the way that it was. It does not have any kind of second story. There's going to be no residential aspect to it. We're not even running water to the facility. I know that that's sometimes a concern with larger carriage houses, that it might be converted to residential or an additional unit at some point. That is not the case in this situation. As I mentioned, we just want it back the way that it was. This is a Hannaford designed a Victorian house, and we want to, I think it's a benefit for the neighborhood and this row of houses to have its historic flavor left intact, and we aim to do that. So thank you very much for your time.
Sure. And to be certain, you're saying that the actual design and the materials, to the greatest extent possible, are going to try to mimic the original carriage house?
Yeah, so we actually, prior to demolition, went out and took the pitch of the roof, which is a big deal that is often overlooked, dimensions of the original, took a series of photos. Our architect designed it exactly the way it was. The only way that we're going to differ is that the exterior walls were 3 or 4 courses of brick thick. What we're going to do is it's going to be with a wood roof structure. Instead of going back 3 layers of brick thick, we're just going to use a wood exterior walls with a full depth brick on the exterior, as opposed to 3 layers of brick. That's really the only major variance from original construction, and that's just a modern mean that's better than the way they used to do it, in my opinion. So.
Okay, great. I think that's all the questions I have for now. Anything else, either from Mr. Good or Mr. Stowe?
No, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Sheldon?
Sure. Just like to confirm what they've both spoken to. The original structure here was constructed in 1885, and it appears that this was constructed in roughly the same time period, probably contemporaneous. They are taking the existing slate roof and preserving it, setting it off to the side. Therefore, there's basically going to be it's kind of fallen into a little bit of disrepair. So if anything, as far as analyzing adverse effects and so on, there's going to be no increase, no blockage of a view that didn't exist already if they were to simply repair the place. Here they're going to build it so it's going to last another 100 years. So by the way, Mr. Good spoke to setbacks. Ordinarily in base zoning, we do have a 3-foot side and rear yard setback requirement for accessory structures, and certain of the larger lot size form-based code transect districts do require that, but here it's a 0 lot limit listed for the building for both side and rear. Now, I will point out that I don't know where you are in the building permit process, Mr. Stowe. I know you had applied, so I don't agree with the building plan examiner, but you may have to end up making fire rated walls and so on when you're that close to the property line. But that's not a zoning issue; that's a building plans issue. So there is no setback requirement here that needs to be granted. No variance necessary for that. So this is all, they also do not have a maximum square footage or area to the accessory structure in this particular form-based code district. They simply don't list it. So in base zoning, David, Mr. Cirque would well aware that it's normally 800 square feet, but in this instance, it simply gives a depth maximum and a width maximum, and in this case, it exceeds the width maximum, and that's the only variance needed.
Yeah, I'll speak to, and I might have misspoken earlier, Mrs. Turkey. We were, with regard to that setback issue, I know we would have to do a fire rated wall along the rear of the property. There was one window on the rear of the property. There's a row of trees back there, so you were basically looking at a trunk of a tree. But due to that fire code issue, that one window that is shown in your plans, and this came up actually this morning when I was discussing with our general contractor, that one window will have to go away to make this a fire rated wall, as well as some other minor, double thick drywall, so on and so forth, to make it fire rated. So that was a little bit different than what I previously said, but like I said, we're aware of the fire rated issue with it being trying to get it as far back against that property line and more in the position that it was originally. So.
Okay, great. I don't think that I have any questions, any further questions here on this one. It seems pretty straightforward. Do you, Mr. Good or Mr. Stowe, have anything further in closing or otherwise before we adjourn here today?
No, thank you, sir. We said everything and we appreciate your time.
Sure. So I'm gonna approve this, guys. It seems like a great project, and I think it's great that you're restoring it back to its original design and trying to use the same materials. I think it's great. So I'm going to approve this. I need to formalize that decision in sort of a written opinion, and so that usually does take a couple weeks. As soon as I finish that, I put it into a PDF and I email it to everybody in this hearing. And so as soon as you have that email from me, you'll be able to start working with Trey on finishing up any permitting issues, zoning permitting issues. And then in the meantime, if you have any questions or if you have any questions now, happy to field those.
So I do have one question, just so that we're up against what I'll call the winter coming up here. So pouring concrete, I'm trying to get this built before it gets too cold. So my question would be, we did have some building comments on our original building permit when we applied before we knew we had to go through this process. Would it be possible to start addressing those and get back in for at least the permit review on the building comments while
absolutely. Yes, you absolutely can. In fact, I would encourage you to do that during the 2-week time period. The period for revisions is about 5 business days for the building plan examiner. For me, it's pretty much a rubber stamp. As soon as David issues his decision, I cannot approve ahead of that, but you go ahead and get your revisions in. If you know what you need, that's why I was kind of hinting as to, I figured there would be building code issues with regard to the fire rating and so on, fire rated wall and openings. So go ahead and get those revisions in. That has to be formally done. So if you digitally submitted this, do that in the same manner. If it was a paper submission, go ahead and get 3 copies of your whole plan set back in. I can't recall how this came in, whether it was digital or paper sets, but do it in the same manner and it'll be more consistent. And then go ahead and have that. Then the building plan examiner can go ahead and review those changes that you made to the plans and have that approved, so that when I get David's decision back, which will be emailed to me and to both of you gentlemen, the minute that I have that within a day, I can flip that permit immediately, and you'll be ready to come and pick it up in a day or two. Okay.
Awesome. Great. Thank you very much. Thank you both very much for your time.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, both. Thank you, Trey. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys for your time and testimony. If you have any other questions, just feel free to reach out.
Okay.
Great.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thanks, guys.